Welcome to another Kings of War Battle Report, the Epic Quest number 12. Free Dwarfs versus Halflings, 2,300 points, and the scenario was Plunder. So the Epic Quest is starting to wind down a little bit, so I'm down to scrounging some armies that I don't play very often, and I'm really not good at, just to be pointed out to you. And so I went ahead and got my dwarves out and decided to do free dwarfs the first game. I think the next game is either going to be regular dwarves or Northern Alliance with some dwarf infantry in it. So this army starts out with 2 troops of dwarf shield breakers, one with fire oil and one with skirmisher boots. 2 regiments of ironclads, one with the staying stone and the other one with a healing brew. A regiment of free dwarf rangers with the upgrade. 3 hordes of earth elementals, one with sanguinary scripture, brew of sharpness, and aegis the Elohi. 2 generals on large beast, one with blade of slashing and one with a mace of crushing. A stone priest with bane chant and surge. A berserker lord with the wings of honey maze. An ASB with loot. And finally, Garrick Heavy Hand, the special character for the free dwarves. Since I've been playing my friend Carl every week, I'm sorry, but all we're playing is Hobbits against whatever else that I have that particular week. So the Hobbit Hell Fighters at 2.3k, a horde of Braves with Relentless, a horde of Spear Spikes with a Hammer of Measured Force, a horde of Stalwarts with the Scrying Gem and Relentless, a regiment of Poachers, a regiment of Juggers with the Potion of the Caterpillar and Relentless, a regiment of Wild Lancers with the Order of the Drunken Ram and Relentless, a horde of Forest Trolls with the Brew of Sharpness, Wild Runner Regiment with Black Powder, 2 troops of EJ Grenadiers, a Howitzer, a Iron Beast with the Pride of the Shires, a Sorcerer, a Sergeant with the Bow and Banner of Hodenberg, and Cadwalder, for a total unit strength of 30 and 15 drops. So I hope you can see the red stars all over the battlefield. I just wanted to get them out there because sometimes they're hard to see because they were under units. And I just wanted to give you an idea of where the tokens were. We placed them just like normal and then rolled for sides. And Carl got the side that he wanted because he had one token that was very near the back, right underneath his Iron Beast. So that was a favorable thing for him. Down here on my right flank, I started out with the Rangers, and they went ahead and scouted forward up to behind that wall. And then one of the generals on Large Beast, they were there behind the hill trying to slow this down, everything that's on the right side. And finally, the Berserker Lord with the Wings of Honey Maze, his job was going to be scooting up there and try to take out that Howitzer at some point in the game. So in the very middle, I put 2 of the regiments of Ironclad, and between them was the ASB with loot, and off to the right you can see just a little dot there. That's Garrick Heavy Hand. I had to have something over there to can opener those Juggers if they come blazing through. And then I had a troop of Iron Breakers, and then a horde of Elementals, and then another troop of Iron Breakers and another horde of Elementals breaking up the middle there. On the very far end, I just had a general on Large Beast and a unit of Elementals because he would have had to squish between that impassable terrain, and it was kind of like who's going to be a race to get there first in order to squash it up. But he had, on that flank, and I'll go over his deployment in a second, he had some really good armor-busting units. He had the Wild Runners with their gunpowder weapons, and then he had a horde of Spear Spikes with the Hammer of Measured Force, and finally a horde of Forest Trolls with the Brew of Sharpness, because that way they're going to hit a ton. So over on Carl's right flank, he had a unit of Wild Runners. Next to them were the Forest Trolls with the Brew of Sharpness, then the Spear Spikes with the Hammer of Measured Force. In the middle were the Braves anchoring the line, and then next to the Braves were the Stalwarts. Supporting those guys was the Iron Beast to give him with the Shire upgrade on it. Next thing are the Juggers. They're on top of the hill at the start of the turn, and the Howitzer is on there as well. Just to the left of them is a unit of Poachers, and they scouted forward during this turn. Okay, anchoring Carl's extreme left is a unit of EJ Grenadiers, and finally a unit of Wild Lancers that are there to to harry me. Interesting that there's both a token on both sides here, and I actually thought I had a really good chance of being able to get both of these two here, but I had so few units in my army. I probably should have got rid of a couple of characters and just had a couple of troops of something just to leave back on objectives. So it very nearly bit me in the butt this game. So Carl won the roll for the first time, but gave it to me, which sometimes is a good thing when you're playing these objectives where you need to go grab them. And as slow as my army is, it probably, once I line up to go somewhere, I'm pretty much bound. I can't really maneuver around to do things. So the Rangers went ahead and stood still this turn and put 4 wounds on the Lancers over there. The general on Large Beast, he moved up and over the hill to take a position to try to keep those guys off of me. Wasn't really scared of their ability to hurt me with his armor 6 and his high leadership. And then the Berserker Lord surged up close. I was in the same problem. I didn't want to get too close to the any of those 2 cavalry units because he, unlike the generals on Large Beast, this guy's kind of squishy. So my plan was to go ahead and fly him next turn in behind his army and then start going after the either the characters or the howitzer that was on the hill. I had to be very careful with this army just because of the speed problem that I had. I did have the elementals who could charge 12, but I'm just moving them out there piecemeal was not going to be an option for me. I would have rather just held everything in line and then just took the charge and hoped that the armor 6 and the magic items on them would just hold out for me. Not much creativity here, I'm sorry, but I just moved everything forward to take the objective that's right there in the very middle. The elementals on the other side are going to move up toward the other objective. My problem was this one here in the back. Like I said, this would have been a place to leave a unit behind of just a garbage unit. I mean, it would have been nice for a troop of crossbowmen or just something like that to hold it out. As you can see over here, I did move the Earth Elementals the maximum they can move to 6 inches, and then the Dwarf Lord on Large Beast, he moved up behind the edge of the piece of impassable terrain there. My job here is just to delay. I just don't want any of the trolls into the flank or to be able to combo charge with the trolls and that unit with the hammer of measured force, or I was going to be done. And really causes a huge tactical problem here trying to figure this out to try to keep those guys away from me. Carl just moved up everything online to match up to his scouted unit. The Juggers came down the hill, and now they're close enough to grab the objective right in front of his main battle line. The trolls kind of evened out on that side too. The EJ Grenadiers, though, flew over next to the ruins to be able to catch me in a flank charge if I went past there. The big thing here is to get that spacing just right, where I can't go past the trolls to get to the cavalry, and that's what's probably going to happen in the next turn, because I can get in such a position that I'll be able to get past the trolls and threaten their flank, and then threaten the shooters at the same time. The EJ Grenadiers just don't produce, are just not enough of a threat. The flank and rear charge with them when your armor 6 is just, it's negligible, the amount of damage that you take. So that's an important thing in this game, and you'll see it later on. So his Wild Riders, I think it's what they're called, just backed up out of range, so I couldn't charge them with the general on Great Beast or whatever he's called. And so that was the kind of the end of this turn. We had a stalemate going here, and I was hoping to figure out a way to break it. I mean, my whole goal in life here is just to delay, because, like I said, I don't need that unit of trolls to come in to my elementals along with that horde of hammer of measured force guys. So in my turn, I moved Garrick Heavy Hand out there for bait, knowing that up behind that wall, that if he charges him, they're going to be hindered. And his armor 6 and all the special abilities that guy has is going to be very, very hard to take out. And if he didn't charge me, I was going to charge into and try to kill those poachers. As you can see, the Berserker Lord had went to the back, and I got too close to him, and he charged me and did 3 wounds to me. With his special character, Cadwaller, or whatever his name is. And I kind of screwed that up. So over here, I drew a red line so that you could see where my General on Large Beast moved. I moved past the trolls where they couldn't charge me in the flank, and I really didn't care if the Wild Runners charged me because they couldn't hurt me. Well, they could if they got lucky, but not really. But the thing I also think here is if he charged me, I don't think he could align without going off the table. But I would have given that to him anyway. It's kind of a cheeky rule. I would have just let him. I would have just moved over a little bit because it really wasn't that important to me. But I thought this was a really good move to keep this flank in place because now the trolls had no choice except to turn to face the General on Large Beast. But even then, I think the trolls could have taken a hit from that guy and kept right on moving. But who knows? So in response, of course, the trolls had to turn toward the General on Large Beast. The EJ Grenadiers flew over to threaten my objective that's here in the middle. I thought they were going to do something else, but it actually turned out to be a pretty good thing, is that now I had to turn, not because I was afraid of him, I just didn't want to move off and forget about the objective. Everything else starts moving forward in the line for him to try to close this distance and start beating on my guys. So everything he had moved forward in the line, and this created a tactical problem for me because I could charge out my elementals and get into some of his units, but then they would get probably flank charged. Now, thinking about it, is the odds of them actually being about losing them aren't that high because of their high armor class. But it was just I started calculating what was going to happen and the fact that I could not bring the dwarf units up there fast enough to support them. So this kind of created a backup for me. I didn't want to get charged easily, and eventually I didn't mind getting charged, but I wanted it to be on my terms as opposed to letting him pick and choose. I was doing good damage to those Wild Lancers with the unit of Rangers, so the EJ Grenadiers went ahead and charged into them. And I believe that we fought this battle for, I think turn 6 is when I finally got rid of the EJ Grenadiers. It was crazy. I just could not, I got them. Sometimes I wavered them. It didn't matter. I just could not get rid of them. The whole game, it was crazy. I just couldn't, you would think I would have slaughtered them in one go, but that did not happen. Over on the left of this picture, you can see that the Juggers took the bait and charged Garrick Heavyhand. He is so tough, and he's got armor 6, and he's got regeneration, and he's got the aura of healing. Makes him really tough to take down. So we'll have to see what happens with that charge. But regardless of the fact that those guys have, they have the Caterpillar Potion, they had to charge over the wall, so they were hindered anyway. My general took 1 wound from the poacher shooting at him. The Rangers did not take any wounds from the EJ Grenadiers charging into them. So, what I should have done here probably is just held this guy there and went ahead and flank charged and killed the EJ Grenadiers, but there were other targets that were a lot more lucrative than that little unit. So during my turn, the general thundered down the hill into the unit of Juggers. The Juggers had done no damage to the to Garrick Heavyhand. The one of the units of Iron Guard went ahead and charged into that unit of Juggers as well. They also had a nice Bane chant on them from the ASB, who's standing right behind that unit, and that's indicated, of course, by that red chit that they have Bane chant on. And then I moved the other unit. I was going to move the 2 dwarf units here up closer, but I did not want to get into the woods where I could be charged. So, like I said, a little bit of cowardice on my part here, but I'd already realized the folly of attacking his line and getting out of sorts. I'm just hoping that he doesn't realize it and he gets out of sorts attacking my line. Over here on the far left, I ended up having to turn the trolls toward the EJ Grenadiers, and not because I was scared of him, but because I wanted to get that objective back, and I wanted him to fly away somewhere else and leave me alone. The General on Large Beast actually moves between the 2 units, between the trolls and the Wild Runners, and moves behind them or to the side of them, so they're going to have to turn to face him again. Oh yeah, my favorite rule had to come into play. Despite this overwhelming attack on this unit of cavalry, which usually don't have that high a morale. I rolled Snake Eyes, and now my flank was wide open to the unit of Wild Lancers that were on the side over here, so I was going to catch it from them into my general on Large Beast. Yeah, this is not what I wanted to happen. The spear spikes with the hammer measure force slam into my unit of elementals. The Braves just move up far enough not to allow me to make a cheeky charge with my little detachment there of shield breakers. The other guys the whole line, this is actually a good move in the fact that you move up and then you support everything. Otherwise, nothing can be isolated. And that's really what this whole move was about, was so that he could isolate on my unit of trolls. And I couldn't really bring any power to anything but like one-on-one matches. So this is not good for me, this whole engagement right here. And it gets worse as the stalwarts move into position there to fight. I would have a hard time fighting the stalwarts one-on-one. As you can see, the juggers, fresh from rolling snake eyes, go ahead and charge into my unit of ironclads. They were not hindered anymore due to the fact that this was a counter charge. And so I was going to take some wounds this turn. There's no way around it. So yeah, the wild lancers, they come flying into the flank of my general on large beast. I don't think they do too much damage because when they came in, they were actually hindered by the difficult terrain. And they don't really hit especially well anyway. So I'm pretty sure I survived this and were able to throw some retribution. They already had several wounds on them because of me getting some shots in with the Rangers. But the Rangers have spent now. If they would have had one more round of shooting at them, those guys wouldn't have been there. But now the Rangers are in a stiff fight with the EJ Grenadiers. This was crazy over here. There was, like I said, nobody could roll to kill either one of us. And I've taken no wounds, and I've done quite a few wounds to him, but I still can't waver him or kill him. So this thing just goes on forever and ever. The Juggers were able to countercharge this turn due to the Snake Eyes roll and inflicted 5 wounds on the stout ironclad unit. But Gareth was going to be nearby, so at the start of the next turn, I was going to be able to get one of the wounds back because of his radiance of life. Over here, the general on large beast turned and destroyed the unit of lancers. They just couldn't get, they just didn't do enough damage on the charge, mostly because of being hindered. And that's going to prove costly for the Halfling Alliance. The unit of Ironclad, they went ahead and did some damage to the Juggers, and I think took them off this turn, but I'm not totally positive. And then the unit of Shield Breakers and Ironclad went ahead and charged into the Stalwarts. I knew that was going to be a long grind, but there was nothing else to do but to engage them. Over here on my left flank, Carl should have used his EJ Grenadiers to protect the flank of his spear spike. It looked like a hard charge. But it was like right at the edge. I was like 11 and a quarter inches away, so I easily made it. But it did look kind of far at first, and then if I hadn't made it, I still had an opportunity to surge. So Earth Elementals charged in the front, or countercharged in the front. They had taken 4 during their previous turn, and then the Shield Breakers also charged the front, and then lastly, the other unit of Elementals gets a flank charge into the Spear Spikes to try to get rid of them. In the very middle, the Earth Elementals with the Brew of Sharpness, they are one-on-one against those Braves, but I didn't really think the Braves could hurt them, so I really wasn't that worried about it. I felt I could just hold until something else can come to the rescue. So over here, the Spear Spikes, they go down in a bloody, bloody mess with all those attacks going into them. It took to the last dice roll of the Earth Elementals to take them out, because the guys in the front basically did almost nothing. The Earth Elementals on the flank opened them up with a great round of dice rolling. In the middle here, the unit of Earth Elementals, I think they did a respectable 6 or 7 wounds to the Braves that were there. That did not break or waver them. But they were in trouble now because of how their flank is hanging open. Yeah, the Halfling left flank was in peril. The unit of Ironclad had went ahead and killed the rest of that unit of Juggers, who were gravely wounded, and the Snake Eyes is the only thing that saved them. Did do some wounds to the Stalwarts with the Ironclad and the Shield Breakers. The general on large beast went ahead. He overran a dice 6 inches because he was going toward an objective that was over on the other side of the table. And so I didn't really care if the poachers charged me or shot me. I just didn't think they could hurt me. So that's what's going on there. I started really thinking about the scenario because everything looked, it was really tight, and there were objectives with nothing on them on both sides of the table, and I was like, well, we need to do something about that quick because you could just sneak in at the last minute and get an objective and win or draw the game. Yeah, the general and large beast, he's eyeballing that objective marker on the other side there. I need to get rid of this silly unit of EJ Grenadiers and then try to get sideways into the back within 3 inches of that objective there. It is very hard, and I'm pretty sure I rolled a snake eyes even. It just delayed it that much more. Over here on the very far right, the general and large beast went ahead and charged into the wild riders. I wavered them, didn't kill them, and then the trolls were going to come in and finish me off. But the big thing was I was wanting to keep those units as far as I could on the other side of the table and from affecting the battlefield, with the exception of them keeping the one counter that they are already on top of. So the Iron Beast goes ahead and rolls into the Ironclad, who are already gravely wounded. They had 5 wounds on them, and so that was not going to be good for them. The unit of Stalwarts goes ahead and countercharges the units in front of them. I think they actually charged the Shield Breakers to get rid of them first, and then would proceed to attack the Ironclad. Carlton, his turn, also charged my one of my unit of Earth Elementals in the rear with his EJ Grenadiers, who did nothing. Over here, the General and Large Beast goes ahead and takes his objective over there, and I had actually I'd been fighting around with my Berserker Lord, and he had been engaging with the special character for the Hobbits for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I wavered him, and I could fly off. So this time I flew off into the back of the poachers and rolled an amazing dice roll and killed them in one go. They never even got to turn around and swing back. So this turn I rolled a ton of wounds. I was ready to knock them out, picked up the dice, and you can see it, my second snake eyes of the game. And it really only mattered because of where the objective was. I needed another objective. Right now, I think we're tied, and I need one more objective. And since I'm stuck in this fight, I can't get out to go get it. It's just so frustrating to roll that because, now it's the second one of the game. And this one is just as crucial as the first one. Yeah, the Iron Beast in that turn had went ahead and busted the unit of Ironclad. And so Gareth had nothing else to do this game, so he goes ahead and charges into the Iron Beast, knowing that the odds of taking it out were very, very low. The Stalwarts had destroyed the unit of Ironbreakers, and so I countercharged with my unit of Ironclad to trying to at least hold those guys up and maybe pin them in place so something else can charge into them. I decided I needed to accelerate the demise of the Braves anchoring the middle of the line. And so I went ahead and charged the I would call them the Forgotten Earth Elementals into the battle and easily destroyed the Braves this turn. And then I turned the Earth Elementals back because I needed to get over there to that last objective because now I've moved myself, several inches away from it. The hardy Stalwarts did not break the unit of Ironclads, and now they are real trouble as their flank is open to a charge from the Earth Elementals with the Brew of Sharpness. Sometimes in a game when you're playing, sometimes it's better to stop and show your opponent something that they're not seeing because it just makes the game more fun than to just run off with it sometimes. And so what I told Carl was to simply, instead of fighting, because Garrick wasn't going to kill that Iron Beast, I said just back it up to the objective and get within 3 inches of it with your unit strength. And then the same thing, you can barely see that unit of Wild Runners at the top. I kept him occupied the whole game, and I said, he was getting ready to move them toward me, and I said, no, just move them toward that open objective and try to get yourself another point because I really think he had a chance to win the game because I was so busy trying to kill him. I really wasn't I was desperate mode trying to get units over to these objectives to try to score. Over here, I finally managed to kill the EJ Grenadiers. I also used Surge for the very first time. I think I've used it in months to surge the Earth Elementals over to the objective over there to get within 3 inches of it and secure it for the Dwarfs. So now I went ahead and charged the stalwarts in the flank since they had failed to kill the ironclad. Really bad dice rolling, and just managed to save them to get those guys into deep trouble. So the the earth elementals, go ahead and charge them in the flank. And these are the ones with the brew of sharpness, so this is going to be wicked nasty. The unit of Ironbreakers goes ahead and moves to the objective, just in case, to throw some more unit strength on it. Despite all those attacks, the stalwarts were in fact, quote, stalwart, and were able to hold off, despite the fact that they were wavered from the flank charge of the earth elementals and the front charge of the unit of Ironclad. At this point, we did call the game. There was no point in going on because no matter what happened, there was no way I could get to any more objectives due to my speed. And at least I don't think I could. I maybe been able to, but it just was pointless to keep trying. It was really just, I had already secured my 4 objectives, and there was, I know, another one right behind these dwarves, and there was no way I was going to get to it. I think this is only the second game ever I have won with a free dwarf army, and the way I've won it the same way is lots of armor 6, and using the Pathfinder that the guys have so that I can fight in rougher terrain. This game really came down. I got to a point where I was just about to advance and attack Carl's main line and realized there was no way I could do it without getting flanked. And so I started backing off, even though I had a pretty good plan going on. But then I realized there's no way that I could make that happen. And then Carl basically does the same thing and comes at me, and he couldn't account for my other unit of earth elementals, and that's what really cost him the game, is that one horde of earth elementals that was kind of forgotten about over there, and it came in and just swept up the middle and basically killed all the units by itself. So that's a hard thing. Like I was really trying to be aggressive, because you're playing dwarves. You can't, movement is not your friend, and so I was really trying to get in a good position, then realized I just couldn't. And so I kind of went back to a fallback position of trying to keep all of my objectives. And if it was going to be a draw, it was going to be a draw, because I didn't have any real comfortable way to attack except over on my right flank. And the right flank, the general on the large beast, he was instrumental. And then Garrick Heavy Hand also was over there, and those two together, fight basically the equivalent of a regiment or better because of their armor and their skill. So again, it's a tight game. Really think at the end there, Carl was about to go off one way, and I told him, "Hey, man, you still got a chance. All you got to do is get these objectives." And finally, he moved his cavalry over to take one, and then he moved his Iron Beast to take one, and so he was only down one, and if the dice roll would have went bad over on that melee with the RC Grenadiers and the Rangers, the game would have been a tie. So you've got to keep track of the whole game. Even you saw me; I was really trying to. I started about turn 4. I started looking at like, oh man, I'm leaving objectives covered, and so I needed to do something quick to get back into the game, because I easily could have lost this game just from objectives. So I think it's just really important. It's like the number one tip of playing this game is to keep track of the scenario. It doesn't matter how many troops and stuff you lose, as long as you can win that scenario. And I think that's a very much key if you're a new player. It feels weird to have all your stuff killed, but then you still win the game. That's kind of fun in a way that you haven't given up on the scenario, because it doesn't take very much. In one of these games like this, if he would have had a flyer unit that was unengaged, he could have just flown over and took the last objective and won the game. So, that, like I said, you got to just keep playing the scenario. You can't squander resources that you might need to get to win a scenario like that. And part of one of those would have been keeping one of the flying units in reserve, or left it back holding the objective over here on the right that my general on large beast got. So there was easily ways that Carl could have won this game, and just the fact that I killed a bunch of it doesn't really matter, because I only won by 1 point. And like I said, if that unit of EJ Grenadiers would have, instead of attacking my Earth Elementals had just went after the objective, he could have won. So really tight game. I mean, 4-3. That's a pretty good game. I really enjoyed it, and I really felt I was outmatched this game, and I kind of got lucky over here on the right side in some ways. Did a little bit of shooting damage for once, and then that forced him to make some moves he probably didn't want to move to do as quickly as he had to do them. So that's kind of fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the battle report. This is another one of my Epic Quest games. The next game is either going to be a dwarf-heavy Northern Alliance army, or it's going to be just a straight-up dwarf army. It just depends on which models I have that I can use for either of those armies. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the battle report, and I'll see you next week.